Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are now on the star clear. Yeah. Good morning to one and all. Thank you for joining us. 1 second here. Right, good morning. You're just joining us now. Welcome. Nice to have you all with us. Just want to see who's joined us. Good morning, Fega and Stephen, who wants to dedicate the learning of today to his mother, Esther Bat Moshe. So Stephen will dedicate the learning to your mother's memory. And on Facebook, welcome to Tracy Mindel, Sherilyn Diamond, Larry Cohen, Ruth Kaplan, Manfred Kalmek, Shirley Feldman, Shelley Lichtenstein, Mark Wachenheimer, Hilton Sawitsky. Good to see you all here. Michael Stein, thank you. Anne Hack, David Ginsberg, Shkoyach, Norman Stein, thank you. Charmaine Chatkin. I've seen a few comments coming in from Brian. Good morning, Brian Feinstein. Bernice Kraus, I think you're on the wrong class. Can you just check if you're on the right class for today? Tuesday, 12th of May. I also saw a comment come in from Lionel Rubin. Lionel Rubin, please check if you're on the right date class, because you got to be on the right class in order to comment on today's class. Please just check that. Greetings, Yana Solomon. Thank you. Good morning, Trevor Gerson on YouTube. Shelley Smith on YouTube, thank you for joining. Great, so our numbers are going nicely on Facebook and YouTube this morning. Thank you for joining us. Good to have you all with us. Morning, Gary Jetzik, Gary Sachs. Okay, thank you, Trevor Gerson, for your feedback on last night. Hilton Sawitsky. Okay, I see your comments to Norman. Yes, I appreciate the feedback for last night's program. Aline Udulovitz, thank you for joining us this morning. We had a fantastic evening last night in honor of Lag BaOmer. For those who were online with us, thank you for joining. I think it was fun as well as educational and inspiring too. So thank you to one and all for being part of the program yesterday evening. Thank you, Tracy. Morning, Jeffrey Eliasov. You're not commenting on the right chat, so just go into the right chat. Norman's okay. All right, thank you. Right, let's get going, guys. It's Lag BaOmer, and What a day. What a day this is. It's a festival. It's a Jewish holiday. It's a celebration. It's a positive day in a time of mourning. It shines positivity at a time of challenge, as it was in the days of Rishon Bar Yochai, so it is today. So we got a lot to talk about. All right, so today I wanted to focus on the bonfire. Thank you, Brian and Helen. Yeah, I see now. Bernice Kraus, you're commenting on yesterday's class. So best is to log out of yesterday's class and get on to today's class. Now, Lionel Rubin, you're with us in the right place. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your help in arranging last night's entertainment with Ilan. It was great, as usual. All right. Great. So we're looking at the bonfire and wanting to understand the mystical, spiritual insights with regards to the bonfire, and especially, obviously, its connection to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and to the celebrations of Lag BaOmer. Welcome to Moira Dworkin. Robert Levy, you're not live. You're not on the right chat. You got to get into today's discussion. So what does the fire represent? What is fire? Fire is very mystical. Fire is very Jewish. There are a lot of beautiful, fascinating insights with regards to fire, which I'd like to share with you today. I hope you've got your coffee as well while we sit here together and we learn together. So our sages teach us, Kiner mitzvah v'Torah or, that ner mitzvah, a candle, is compared to a mitzvah. The Torah or, and the Torah is compared to light. So we see that the fire and the candle is a mashal, it's a parable. It helps us appreciate Torah and mitzvahs. So when we light the bonfires over Lag BaOmer, and by the way, it doesn't have to end last night. You can even light the fires tonight too for a barbecue, or a bonfire tonight also works. Meaning till this, it's late afternoon, early evening should be the right time before the end of Lag BaOmer. So ner mitzvah Torah or, that Torah is compared to a candle, it's compared to a light. What is it? What is it about the candle that reminds us of Torah mitzvahs? So we know that the body of a person, each one of us, contains two elements to us. We've got the body and we've got the soul. The body obviously pursues the physical, the mundane, the animalistic, the selfish aspirations, rather than the selfless. And the soul represents the spiritual, the divine, the godly, the other than ourselves, something out of ourselves, is represented by the neshama. And we continuously have this struggle all day and every day. We are toying and pulling and debating between our body and between our soul. And do we follow the pull of our body and the physical and the selfish and the material, or do we follow the pull of the neshama, of the soul, and go towards God, towards Torah, towards mitzvahs? That's the famous debate that we always have This was the debate that Rebecca had inside of her when she went to seek the advice of Shem, because inside of her she was feeling a pull here and a pull there, and she wasn't sure what's going on. And Shem told her, you have two people inside of you. Those are the two neshamas we have inside of us, the body and soul, l'chaim. Now, if you look at the candle has the same. On the candle, we have the actual candle, and we have the wick or the wood, right, in the bonfire. That's the candle. It reminds us of the guf, of the body, of the body, of the physical. And then when you look at the flames have something mystical to them, something spiritual to them. And those flames remind us of the neshama. They remind us of the soul. And therefore, it's not a coincidence that the pasuk says, "Kineh mitzvah v'Torah or," that the candle is compared to a mitzvah, and the Torah is compared to light, because that's what the candle does. It reminds us of mitzvahs and reminds us of Torah, not just of the spiritual side, also the physical side, because we got to be physical beings in order to perform physical mitzvahs. So looking at the fire with the wick, with the candles, with the wood and everything reminds us of the combination of physical and spiritual. Now, have you ever looked inside a bonfire and you can see the fires crackling along? There's some sort of resistance there with the fire in the wood. It's quite fascinating. And that's what keeps us drawn to the bonfire when looking at a fire. And you see how the fire is raging with the wood and it's crackling and it's sizzling. That is exactly the experience that our neshama is going through. That feel of resistance, that feel of struggle is something that our neshama is experiencing. Can you believe it? That's what our neshama is going through. It's going through the same pain. The wood is the physical, the fire is the spiritual, and the two aren't getting along so well. So they're continuously fighting with one another. That's how our neshamas are inside of us too. Our body wants one thing, our soul wants another, and somehow they're trying to get along. And that's what causes this, the crackling along. You know, for our souls to be here, for our neshamas to be in this world, we don't belong here. The neshama belongs in a spiritual world, not a physical world. The only reason we're here is because we have a task. We have a mission to fulfill. And that task, that mission, needs to be done with body and soul together. But ultimately, the neshama doesn't belong here. Ultimately, the neshama belongs in the more spiritual world. So what holds on to it is the body holding on to it. The wick holds on to the fire. The wood holds on to the fire. The body holds on to the neshama. But the neshama always wants to go upwards. The neshama always wants to reconnect. Sometimes that neshama is hidden, and sometimes that neshama is revealed and exposed, but the neshama always wants to go upwards. What direction does fire go in? Fire always goes upwards. It's not a coincidence. Fire goes upwards and neshama goes upwards. That's how it goes. The neshama wants to reconnect to its creator. It wants to connect to its creator, so it continuously strives for connection, like the fire on the candle. And that's what pulls us towards Hashem. That's the longing that we have to go back to our shuls today. The longing to be able to hear the laning from the Torah. The longing we have to be able to pray to Hashem together with a minyan. What wouldn't we do right now to be able to come together as a minyan? Not just to socialize with our friends, which we always enjoy doing in shul, but to daven and to answer Amen Yehesh Me Rabbah in Kaddish, and to be able to open up the Ark of the Aron Kodesh and take out the Torah. What wouldn't we do? That's the aspiration of the fire of the neshama inside of us. It always wants to go upwards. It always strives to connect. At the same time, the body is important too, because the body is what grounds the neshama. The neshama's aspirations alone can sometimes be unhealthy. Sometimes the neshama's aspirations alone can drive you out of this world, like Nadav and Avihu, the two sons of Aaron, who were taken away because their neshamas were aspiring for something and their bodies couldn't hold on to them. So we have the body to hold on to us, to ground us, to implement the spiritual into the physical, as we've spoken about in the last couple of days with regards to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And so that's the combination of body and soul, wick and fire, wood and bonfire, because it reminds us of the partnership and the struggle that body and soul have to go through. There's some other interesting aspects of the fire, of the flame, which we talk about when looking at the bonfire. And the interesting thing is about fire is that fire has two sides to it. Fire has two sides to it. It has a positive and a negative. On the one hand, fire is all-consuming. It consumes everything. Nothing doesn't burn in fire, eventually. There may be some resistance along the way, but nothing doesn't burn in fire. Fire is all-encompassing. If you want to know what unity looks like, look into the fire, the flame. Because just throw whatever you want into the bonfire and then it consumes it all. But on the other hand, fire destroys. And fire is destructive. How is it possible for one thing, take fire for example, to have such a strong positive aspect and such a strong negative aspect? Such a strong positive aspect that it consumes everything. Such a strong negative aspect that it destroys everything. That, my friends, is the reality of this world. Everything has in it a positive aspect and a negative aspect. Everything in this world, even Torah, has, according to the sages, positive sides to it and negative sides to it. For example, if you use Torah for your self-gratification or self-glory, that's not healthy Torah. That's negative Torah. If you use it for the sake of serving Hashem in a better way, it's obviously a better Torah. Money, finance, technology, internet, clothing, housing, cars, work, everything in this world, holy and unholy, has a positive aspect and a negative aspect, just like the fire. This is also the reason why a husband and wife, which is called Ish and Isha, I mentioned this a couple of days back, that Ish and Isha are spelt with the same letters as Aish. But before I get onto that, I want to welcome one and all to our daily learning of daily inspiration, lockdown inspiration. We have a beautiful crowd on Facebook and YouTube, close to 40 people, just under 40 people are joining us between the two platforms. So it's fantastic to have you all here with us. If you are just joining now, please do share with us your greetings. We'd love to hear from you and know that you're with us live in person, at least across the screen. So if you're just joining in now, please do post some greetings either on YouTube or Facebook. We'd love to know you're here with us. So what does the Talmud Sota tell us? The Talmud Sota tells us that the lettering of the woman and the man of the husband and wife is spelt Aish, fire. The difference is that the husband has the Yud in the Aish for Ish, and the Mrs., the wife, has the Hey, woman has the Hey for Isha. That's the Yud and the Hey, the combination of Yud Hey, Hashem's name. That is the third partner in a relationship of husband and wife. But what do we see here? We see here that Aish represents love, romance, passion. That's the reason why husband and wife had that spelling of Aish. Because to be a husband, to be a wife, one has to have love and emotion represented by the fire, by the flames of the Aish of the fire. The fire represents passion. The fire of Rashbi represents passion. So Aish. But when it comes to fire, there's two aspects to fire. We said fire is all-encompassing on the one hand, and fire is destructive on the other hand. Fire is all-encompassing. So in other words, when husband and wife are getting along with each other, and there is love and connection between husband and wife, that fire is a positive fire. That fire is a fire of love. But then sometimes, heaven forbid, in a relationship that goes sour, when people aren't getting along, when a couple is no longer able to live with each other, there the Aish, the fire, is destructive. It's not fire of love. It's fire of disharmony. It's the destructive force of fire. And so fire is an example of positive and negative as we look at fire. Fire has the two aspects to it. So we spoke about, just to summarize where we're holding, we spoke about fire being an example of the neshama in the body, being an example of Torah and mitzvah's work in this world, which is a combination of physical and spiritual. We spoke about fire having the two extremes of positive and negative, being all-encompassing and love and unity and harmony on the one hand, and being destructive and disharmony on the other hand. The third aspect that I want to mention about fire, that we think about the fire of Lag BaOmer, is the fire of the Mizbeach, the fire of the altar. And this fire was extremely unique because what we say about the fire of the Mizbeach is the fire of the Mizbeach, what we're reminded of on Lag BaOmer and the service of Hashem. The fire on the Mizbeach was there continuously. There was always a flame burning on the altar. In fact, it says that the fire of the Mizbeach is called Ariel. I don't know if any of you knew that, but the fire of the Mizbeach, and sometimes we see the name Ariel used to describe the actual temple itself. Sometimes Ariel is used to describe the fire on the Mizbeach. Sometimes Ariel is used to describe the actual Mizbeach itself. So whatever's got to do with the service of the Mizbeach, the service of the temple, is called Ariel. But one of the things is called Ariel is the actual fire burning on the Mizbeach. Why is that? Because Ariel comes from the word Ari El, the lion of Hashem. And our sages teach us that the fire of the Mizbeach was crouching on top of the Mizbeach like an Ari, like a lion. Like a lion, it sat there on top of the Mizbeach continuously. That fire never went out. The fire never went out because God was showing that his presence, the presence of the lion, rests on top of the Mizbeach continuously to show its presence in the Beit HaMikdash. Now, what's interesting with that fire on the Mizbeach is that the Kohanim did not rely only on that fire. In fact, the Torah tells us that the Kohanim had to light their own menorah at the same time, their own fire at the same time on the Mizbeach. So actually, two things were being done at the same time. You had the fire of the Ari, of the lion of Hashem, sitting on top of the Mizbeach, on the altar, and you had the fire that the Kohanim were lighting as well. Why was that necessary? Why was it necessary for the Kohanim to light their own menorah? And the answer is because Hashem was teaching us a lesson. And there's got to be a balance between God's input in our lives and our own input in our lives. There's got to be a combination of both aspects. On the one hand, God provides for us. He gives us. He sits on our mizbeach, on our altar, like a lion sits on the mizbeach. At the same time, we've got to do our bit. We've got to go light the fire ourselves, like the Kohanim that would light the fire on the mizbeach. There's got to be a combination of both. We can't have one or the other. We can't have just ourselves doing the work. Because if we're just doing the work ourselves, we know that that's not going to give us blessings. Our own work alone doesn't give us blessings. We need to have the blessings of Hashem, that Hashem is the one that blesses us with our blessings. At the same time, we can't only have the blessings of Hashem. We can't just have the fire sitting on the Mizbeach alone without our input, because it doesn't work that way. Hashem tells us, I will bless you when you do the hard work and the hard effort, and you put in the hard work. And so that's the reminder of the fire. The fire reminds me of the Mizbeach, of the altar, and the combination of man's input together with God's input, and how important the two are. And I think that the teachings of Rashbi, the teachings of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, was teaching us exactly that. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai was teaching us that the partnership that's going to take place between us and God, between man and God, can't be a one-way partnership. It's got to be a combination of man and God coming together, God putting in and man in, and working side by side, like the wick with the candle, as we spoke about earlier. Like the wick with the candle, it's the physical and the spiritual working hand in hand together. If there's any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. Please just post them in the chat. We'd love to hear some of your comments, maybe some ideas of what you and your family have decided to do for Lag BaOmer. I saw across social media some beautiful pictures of families sitting with their bonfires last night. Let me know what sort of fantastic ideas you've come up with. We'd love to hear from you. Oh, Norman Stain is fired up. That's the way to go, Norman. That's the way to go. Fired up, man. Thank you. Also, just observing the actual fire. It's quite amazing with fire when you study it, when you look at it, and you meditate while looking fire. Fire. With no school on, we're doing the bonfire today instead. Yeah, Ellie Faglin, thanks for your comments. I'm also going to be doing the fire today. Come by. I don't think I can come by. Thanks for the invitation. I'm also going to be doing a bonfire this afternoon for my children as well. Great bonfire. So yeah, thank you. So I'm going to be doing a bonfire later today as well. Ellie Faglin, I would invite you to join me, but we're not supposed to be socializing in person. That's why we have these Facebook and YouTube live sessions to somehow connect with some people out there. Just one last point I want to mention about the fire is that you'll notice, one last observation is, thanks Sherilyn, is that the fire, it's fascinating how it jumps. The fire is continuously jumping up and down. And it's reaching higher and trying to reach higher and higher. Fascinating to see, how high the fires go. Ellie, Aussies are allowed to have 10 people now. Yeah, when in Australia. Do you believe man was born to study Torah? Absolutely. Dennis, the world was created for two reasons. Man, or the Jewish people, and Torah. That's why the world was created. Whatever is taking place in the world was created for those two reasons. Man and the study of Torah. That's why man was created. No question. So that observation I was just commenting on, the observation of those flames that are jumping up, it's fascinating to look at them. And I would say it's a lesson for us. It's a lesson for us to strive upwards, to strive to accomplish more. Look at those flames. We got to be like that. We got to have that aspiration. I want to accomplish more. I want to do more. Now, each one of us obviously achieves at different paces, at different stages, accomplishes different things at different times. So we're all different. And that's what makes us so beautiful, is that your aspirations and my aspirations, even in religion, could be different. But because we're like the flame, we're the same, because we're all just jumping up. We're jumping up, trying to strive upwards. Me in this regard, and you in that regard, and her and him in each of their own regards. And I would say that's the common denominator here. The common denominator is not what we are doing. The common denominator is, are we striving for more? Are we like a fire? Are we like a flame, trying to do more every day? And that's what's unique to each one of us, is that we're not settled and we're not content with where we're holding, but we're continuously striving to accomplish a little bit more every day. So that's the fourth aspect that I wanted to focus on. Let me just summarize those aspects of fire that we spoke about today in honor of Lag BaOmer, in honor of the Yortzeit of Rosh Shimon Bar Yochai. We spoke, number one, we spoke about the balance of physical and spiritual, of the wick and the candle, of that struggle between physical and spiritual. And that's exactly what Torah mitzvahs are like, is balancing the physical and spiritual elements within the world. The second aspect we spoke about was the contrast of the fire, how sometimes the fire is positive and all-consuming and unity, and on the other hand, fire is destructive. And that's why love and passion and hatred can also have that contrast in passion. The third thing we spoke about was the fire of the Mizbeach, the fire of the altar, which was on the one hand from God, like a lion on top of the altar. On the other hand, it was lit by the Kohen. And that was a combination of man's actions and God's actions. Both are vital. And the fourth aspect we spoke about was the flames of the fire always jumping and dancing. And that's how we have to be, always jumping and dancing to something new. Each one of us on our own level, each one of us in our own area, striving and dancing to something new. I see some comments coming through. Gary Sachs, I'm going to pray to Hashem that everyone lights their bonfire safely. Yes, that's true. We don't want to burn down the houses. Rabbi, I missed our fire last night. We always had one in Odwin Street with everybody. So Hilton, the answer is burn your own bonfire in your house today in honor of Lag BaOmer. Don't give up on it. You may not be able to have a street fire, so do it for yourself in your own backyard, your own barrel. See how that goes. It's been fascinating, and once again, fantastic to have you all with us. Thank you for joining us. We've had over 45 students here today, or even more possibly. So thank you for logging on. I wish you all a fantastic day ahead. If there's any questions or comments, you're more than welcome to post them now. Otherwise, I wish you all a happy Lag BaOmer, and enjoy the celebrations with your family. And please God, we'll be back here tomorrow morning, same place, same time, 10:30 a.m. on Facebook or YouTube. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Lag BaOmer.